You're listening to the Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV Last Call, where Kevin, Wendy, and Brent talk about anything and everything that couldn't quite squeeze into the regular show. Today we talk about Doctor Who, Heroes Reborn, Minority Report, Haven, Scream Queens, and Gotham.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Let's get started with what Brent has to cover.
Yeah, I got a couple things. First of all, I wanted to share a link to a really cool kind of video. It's very short, but it's a little behind the scenes of the Doctor Who Abbey Road photo shoot remake. It was the famous photo shoot of the Beatles, Abbey Road. And they have a couple of Daleks, and they have Jenna Coleman, and they have Peter Capaldi. And they take like 50 different snapshots of this of them walking across the crosswalk there. And it's a really fun little video. It's very short. It's worth a watch.
You know, it's corny because it's been done so many times over the years with that shot, but still, when it's a set of characters or a show you like, it can't help but give you a smile. So yeah, I got a kick out of it.
Yeah, I had seen the photograph, and it is fun to watch them actually make it because it's very unglamorous about what they're doing. You know, they have people trying to get in and out between the cars. And I mean, the Beatles and Doctor Who are like, Coke and hamburgers or something. They just go together. So I think that it might be cheesy and derivative, but I still like it.
Yeah, cheesy and derivative, but I still like it. That can explain a lot of things, describe a lot of things, can't it?
Exactly.
All right. Well, I also want to talk about Heroes Reborn, the first two episodes. I've seen the third via screeners, and I'm fighting. I was talking to Kevin before we recorded. I'm really having a hard time not talking about anything in the third because sometimes I don't remember where the second one ends and the third one begins. But I'll try my best. But we weren't quite sure exactly where it was going to pick up, and so we find out it's picked up a few years maybe into the future of now. Real time has progressed, but I think it's probably even a few years into the future from now. I didn't see any dates, so I don't know for sure. You guys probably remember, and I'm probably sounding like an idiot right now, but. There is, the call them the Evos, the people with mutated powers, the superheroes, are known in society, and everybody knows about them, and they have this big rally where they're going to have this human and Evo peace, everybody's getting along, we're having a groovy time, and there is a massive explosion, like a nuclear explosion of some sort. It just kills so many people, both humans and Evos alike, and then we skip forward again. Sometime in the future, we skip forward and we see that Evos are being hunted now. Definitely, they're hiding. They're being killed. In fact, we find out that Zach Levi's character, Luke Collins, and his wife are actually a team that's going out and killing people. At first, we think they're working for somebody. And here's where I'm going to get in trouble, folks, because I don't know if this is episode 3 or 2, but we find out, I think, that they're actually reacting to something that happened in their lives, and they're acting on their own. They're not actually part of a team, and they're just out trying to get vengeance against something that happened to them. And I won't go into details about what happened to them, just in case that was in episode 3. And then, of course, we do follow good old horn-rimmed glasses, HRG, Noah Bennett. Of course, in the beginning, we actually hear Claire Bear on the phone. Just it was a kind of a machine, though, that he was leaving a message for her on her voicemail. And then we suspect, he thinks that his daughter was killed, or was missing, or was killed, or something in the explosion, and then when he starts uncovering a little bit more of what was going on, and he visits his friend who can erase memories, and they actually, unfortunately, get into a fight because his friend tries to kill him, and his friend tells him, as after Noah has actually shot him fatally, tells him that he's the one who told him to kill him. So Noah basically said, "If I ever come back, kill me." But of course, Noah is just too good to allow that to happen, and ends up actually killing his friend. And so there's this big secret that he's trying to forget. It's part of a big plan, and it looks like, I'm thinking it's probably that Claire is still alive and others are still alive, and they're in hiding, and he just isn't supposed to know about that for their safety. So a lot of cool stuff happening there. We've got some new characters. I love that there's a character called Miko, who can go into a video game world when she draws a katana. She's Katana Girl. That's really fun. We've got a conspiracy guy named Quentin, who's hooks up with Noah, and they go investigate Noah's old place of business, which is still in operation, apparently. and they've also lost track of Molly, who is the one who can detect where the other Evos are. And the bad guys have gotten a hold of Molly, and they've taken her into custody, and they're going to use her to do some nefarious stuff. And we've got new characters being introduced that we don't know much about. There's a new guy in China who cuts off his own hand so he can fly away because he's being chased down by government officials. And there's a new girl in some frozen wasteland who some glowy woman is telling her that she's going to be needed by the Earth in the future. And I don't know. It's a lot of cool stuff here. It kind of reminds me of season 1 a bit, so I'm liking it. I'm digging it.
Yeah, as I mentioned real quickly when we did the quick reviews based on your spoiler-free mention of the first couple, it was, I thought, certainly slow for the first 30 minutes or so. But then, as you said, as some of these characters we've known, some new ones started to come in and play around a little bit, they did a good job bringing back some of the sounds from the previous episodes. So it was kind of like settling into that comfy chair of yours where you go, yeah, I remember when this was really good. So it's got a good shot at working. I wouldn't say I over the top loved the first 2 eps, but I liked them. And it's a lot, I think, for me, going to depend on like the next couple of episodes. Can we get into some interesting stuff with some familiar faces and some new ones? Then it might work. If we're going to get a little too wandery with the story or go a little too slow with it, then I'm going to be disappointed. The only thing I would ding it, or what I was hoping to see more of myself in these first couple episodes, was a couple more of the familiar faces. I know they're coming based on promotional materials. So even if it was just a quick nod or a quick flashback or a quick scene of them in this first couple, I would have liked that a little better. Give me a little bit of that familiarity, along with, like you said, Katana Girl, very distinctive and could be a lot of fun. So, good. I definitely give it a thumbs up, but I'm going to need a little more meat in the next couple, I think, for me to really be on board.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably, of the three of us, the least interested in this, and it didn't win me over. I mean, it was fine, but it didn't hook me. I'm not like, oh, wow, I can't wait to see the next episode or anything. And I think part of it might be, as you mentioned, Kevin, because we don't have enough characters from the original yet. So I was sort of waiting to see somebody I knew besides HRG. I was also thinking that because Zachary Levi is one of the lead characters, that I would have seen more of him. It didn't feel like he was in the story that much. So that kind of threw me. But I'm okay with the setup. And I actually think that I might come to like some of the new heroes. I don't know what I think yet about the video game kids. It kind of feels like that's off in its own world too much. I don't know. We'll have to see how that unfolds. But I do like her power. I think that's pretty cool. I just hope they can bring it more directly into the story pretty quickly.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Hero in season 1. Remember, he and his buddy's story was totally separate from everybody else's for the longest time. They had their own story going on until they finally got together with everybody, and then everything got great for the end of season 1. So hopefully that'll happen here as well. But I want to know what the blonde out in the frozen wilderness, what her deal is. We're just getting these hints that she's, somehow important to the future of the world, and the world needs her. And what does that mean? And the guy who flew off in China, are we ever going to see him again? They've introduced some characters and left us kind of scratching our heads and going, huh? What's going on here? I don't think they did that much in Hero Season 1. Typically, if they introduced a character, they told us a bit about that character. They didn't just give us one quick scene and then leave us hanging.
I think I could be mistaken, but I believe the guy who flew away by cutting off his hand was one of the people that was in that room that got gunned down.
Yeah, he was. He was in the room,
sitting around that table with a stone.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's dead. In other words.
He's
so
dead.
I think he's already dead.
Yeah.
All right.
I think.
Well, no more of him.
He got killed at Evo's Anonymous.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some good potential, and I'm looking forward to it. But I think I'm like you, Wendy, in the sense of, okay, you got me back, but you got to keep me. Got to give me something to keep me.
Yeah, for me, definitely, because, for me, a lot of the characters and heroes that I was really liking, they haven't announced are going to be guests, right? I really like the Petrellis and Mommy Petrelli. So I'd like to see that aspect come in. I am very curious if they're going to bring, I don't think they're called Primatech anymore, but, the ashes of Primatech, the guy who's holding Molly at the end, if he and the Zach Levi and his wife end up sort of forming a connection at some point, or if they are going to stay sort of their own independent operators.
Didn't most of the Petrellis end up dying at the end of
I don't
Heroes?
remember, honestly.
Thought Mama did for sure. I don't know. I don't either, because I kind of want to forget those seasons of Heroes. In fact, I look at my DVD shelf longingly and realize that I have seasons 1, 2, and 3. I never bothered buying the rest. What does that tell you?
Yeah, I think you're not alone in that approach.
I hear you.
Well, that's it for me then.
Okay, Kevin.
2 shows to talk about for me this week. First one, and we ended up talking around it quite a bit in the 200-minute discussion. That's the Minority Report pilot, the first episode. Overall, putting any baggage aside, similarities, whatever you want to call them, the actual episode itself was just kind of okay. I was of the mind that the characters didn't really engage me yet. I don't dislike them. I think there's some possibility there. The premise coming off the film can definitely work. It's something I very much like in terms of the future setting. So, I think we've got some bits here to maybe build on. I'm going to wait to see how it kind of plays. Unfortunately, it did horrible, and I mean horrible, in the ratings. Some of the rating sites were actually saying it's now the contender for the first show to be canceled, possibly. It was so bad. So, if we don't see some bounce back in the ratings in the next ep or two, this thing might be very short for this world. I guess we'll have to wait to see. But, I'm, not worried if it doesn't. But again, there's some premise here. Going to wait to see if they build on it and catch me a little more and don't have too much familiarity with some other similar shows like Brent brought out. If it starts to look completely retreaded, then yeah, I'm going to start to lose something. In other words, it needs to create its own distinction now for me, be it the characters that I really start to like or maybe some story twists that I don't see coming.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you, and I think Brent's 200-minute really hit it. There's just so many pieces that have come from other shows that it's hard for me to see this as a distinct show just after the pilot. I found the characters likable, but I wasn't as hooked. Certainly not even close to how engaged I got with Sleepy Hollow's Abby and Ichabod characters, regardless of the storyline itself. The storyline, predicting who's going to get murdered every week, that's not all that interesting. At the very end, they were sort of hinting at the idea that you're going to have Agatha and the other brother possibly worried that they're going to be recaptured, or they're going to try to reinstate the precog program, and maybe the brothers being manipulated. That could, have some potential to build into its own storyline. But we'll see, if the ratings weren't that good, I'm not sure we'll get to actually see that play out.
Yeah, it's pretty sad on the ratings. I have to admit that I completely forgot the show was on the air, and I had to catch the Friday repeat on Fox and watched it Friday in order to catch the premiere of it. So hopefully with the repeat on Friday, they're going to add those ratings, and it'll have some decent ratings. I like some of the characters, like you, Wendy. I'm very curious about what's going to happen with the Precog's brother and sister and what's going on there and where she is, because she's only talking to him remotely. Obviously, the other brother has turned his abilities into a way to become rich and famous as somebody else, pretending to be somebody else. So he's not like he's hiding. He's hiding who he is or what he was, but he's not really hiding himself. So I don't know that he's too worried about being found or anything, because anybody who knew who he was knows where he is, because his face is, obvious. But I don't. It has a lot of similarities, but I'm willing to wait for it to play out, because the whole idea of, first of all, police procedural done into the ground, but we still keep coming back for more. The idea of, we know something's going to happen in the future, we have to stop it. There's True Calling right there, and True Calling, even though it was short lived, I think it kept it up and was pretty exciting. And then of course you get things like iZombie, which isn't looking into the future, but is seeing what happened with crimes and solving the crimes, and that kind of stuff can happen. It can succeed for long term. It's not going to necessarily wear out. It depends upon the characters, as always, and the storytelling and the pacing. And Minority Report seems to have that. I don't know if it's solid yet, but I was impressed enough that I'll come back.
Yeah, and I'm not giving up either. I'm certainly going to try to watch at least a couple more. if we get them. But yeah, it's going to need something to keep me coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not dropping it after the pilot, but it didn't ratchet up my interest any more than it was before I watched the pilot, right? And so that's where it's sort of like it hasn't hooked me from the pilot for sure. But I'll give it a try. I guess my ding on the way that they're setting up these murders is they're happening so quickly, and they're people that we don't know. So one thing that works really well a lot of times when you have a procedural story is when the murder itself is, ripped from the headlines. So it might resonate with people that way, or it's characters that we have some interest in. In this, because there are these abstract visions that are all quick cut together, I don't get any interest or connection in who's going to get murdered. To me, it's all just moving the pawns around on the chessboard as far as solving the murder or preventing the murder from happening. At least that's how I felt from the pilot.
Yeah, they might end up making that very dry if they don't. I mean, that's to maybe draw a little bit of a parallel. Sometimes what can be interesting in Person of Interest, where they have a person, obviously each episode, and you kind of don't know yet why they're the focal point of something. So if it's the same thing about the murder, and Brent, you mentioned this too, whether it's iZombie, True Calling, even the familiarity of what we all know what that is and so forth, you can still use it and have it work. So it's all in how they're going to be able to use this. So I don't want to overjudge. I know a lot of people have already complaining about kind of stuff in the tuna minute, and that it was the almost human replacement. Why didn't we just get that renewed? So unfortunately, it's got a big climb still ahead of it from some of that negative stuff. But fingers crossed, it makes it on its own.
Yeah, I mean, it has potential for sure.
Yes, it does. The other show I wanted to talk about, thanks to the folks at SciFi, Brent and I got a chance to check out the first 2 episodes of Haven's final season, or final back half of the season, depending upon how you want to look at it. Its final 13 episodes that are coming. We got a chance to see episode 514, New World Order, and 515, Power. And I'm not going to go into spoilery details. These are due to air on October the 8th. But, for those of you who've been Haven fans all along, you know exactly where we got left off at the end of the first set of 13 episodes this season with Duke and where he was at with all of the troubles. So we jump right in literally at that moment and pick up right from there, and they're being bold. Things are not looking good for our heroes, to use a common phrase. So all the what is hitting the fan, and all of our regular characters are there to try to figure it out. So it's been very focused in Haven, and who's aware of what's going on has been greatly increased. So that's also part of it, of her story that's been very much with the troubles having been hidden quite a bit. That's not so much the case as we're moving forward. And we're going to have to figure out what they're going to do about it and what it's going to mean to our little town with only 13 episodes left to air. So I thought it was a good set of episodes. I enjoyed them both. Haven's become a bit of the cerebral one for me, kind of just enjoying that now we've gone 5 episodes in. I'm kind of curious on the whole bigger story, but it's also become much more about these characters for me and how they're dealing with the situation they're in. So, certainly something I've enjoyed. Glad I got a chance to see them a little early. And for those of you who've been Haven fans, it's more of the same in a good way.
That's good. I haven't had a chance to watch these yet. And I'm kind of wanting to save them a little bit because I'm going to be sad to see this show end. I think it's time for it to end. I think the story is ready to come to a conclusion, but I do like the characters a lot. And I am very much anticipating how they bring the characters to that conclusion. So I'm glad they come out with a strong start.
Yeah, those characters that we all loved are back. It was like a comfy pair of jeans, comfy shirt, whatever, comfy pillow to get back into the groove of these characters, because they just click right away again, just as they always have. And in fact, that it's a continuation, and it was filmed, right after the other ones. There's no big gap. It just really fits seamlessly. We wondered, because at the end of the last half of the season, we saw this. There's no spoilers here because it was like almost a year ago, that Audrey and Mara were reunited in a sense, and Audrey was the outcome. So we've got that. So the question was, and of course Duke's all of his stuff started screaming out of him right at the end of last season. All of those troubles that Mara had created. So the big question was, what could they do with the show at that point? And Haven's done really well at reinventing itself every time, every season break. They've been reinventing themselves into a totally different show. And they've done it again, folks. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. This is kind of a spoiler-free review, but I will just say this in one regard, and it's kind of I kind of winking as I'm saying it because I don't mean the negative things that this is going to sound like, but Haven has pretty much become Under the Dome, hasn't it, Kevin? Or maybe even Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, you could definitely draw those parallels.
But not in a bad way, folks. Not in the way that it was horribly written or any of that stuff. It's just the concept. So you got to check it out. It's kind of cool. I like how they've done the reinventing again of this show and turned it into yet again something new to explore with these characters that I personally love.
Okay, I'm going to totally pretend you didn't draw any parallel to the Under the Dome. Because that just makes me sad.
How about very early season 1 Under the Dome when it was a cool mystery?
When it was still the high concept and they hadn't failed on the dismount.
Once Upon a Time. Think of it that way, too.
Or early Once Upon a Time?
Yeah, and later again.
Okay.
Early-ish.
Okay.
Yeah. I was still on board for what he's referring to.
Okay.
And that'll do it for me.
Okay. Just really quick, I wanted to talk about Scream Queens. We had a back-to-back episode premiere, and I don't know about you, Kevin, but I was thinking that Ryan Murphy took a lot of elements of Glee and just put it in college, put it in this sorority fraternity environment, and added a lot of graphic killing to it. But, the Jamie Lee Curtis character, it's a lot like Sue from Glee. She's this adult who's probably abusing her power and menacing the students. The mean girls are in charge. There's a bunch of misfits who are the pledges to the sorority. They've got some very funny winks to horror, which is very consistent with the Scream movies, where people do things knowing that they're out of, stupid horror movie 101 plot and sort of wink at the camera as they do it. So it wasn't laugh out loud funny, although there were a couple places where I was probably laughing out loud, but I was smiling a lot. I have to admit, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. I really wasn't expecting to enjoy it, but it was pretty good fun. And I'm really curious about what's going to happen with, the Jamie Lee Curtis character eventually becoming an ally for the sake of the school with the sorority, but right now being sort of their arch nemesis.
I find it interesting what you said about it being like Glee with a bunch of killing, because I could never stomach Glee, but if it had a bunch of killing in it, I might have tuned in.
It is some graphic killing, I'll tell you. They did not shy away from the graphic killing.
Yeah, for that reason alone, Brent, you might want to give at least the pilot episode a shot to see if that vibe is there. But it's and you folks know from if you've been listening during the summer, I was really looking to this possibly being that guilty pleasure show every week that's just bonkers awesome kind of idea, over the top and all. And as you said, it was good, but I was maybe hoping for a little more over the top, either in the humor or the crazy storyline or violence. It was very much a horror movie set on at a sorority on a college campus with some humor thrown in. So it was okay, but I'm looking for something myself to keep it on the regular schedule with a lot of other shows. It's got to really be hitting the mark. Otherwise, it's just a little too Glee at a horror movie setting. So going to have to wait to see. That there are some distinctive characters, and certainly Jamie Lee Curtis is great as that person, like you said, who right now is out to get the sorority, but eventually will probably end up aligned with them based on what might be happening with a serial killer and so forth. So we might have to see. But even some of the other, either the misfit pledges, that the one who's going after one of the pledges is the boyfriend, and we can't tell if he's evil or just, sappy and trying to help. And the mean girls and their whole clique, created some humor, but that's very routine stuff. So here's the thing, to make this thing work, if it's just more of this over and over every week, it's going to wear out on me fast. If they throw some wrinkles at it or up the humor or the craziness of it, then it might be that guilty entertainment pleasure. So I think we'll have to wait to see. So I was slightly disappointed, but, they're still got me interested to see where it's going to go.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you in terms of ratcheting up the wacky part. Actually, Lee Michelle from Glee is one of the characters. And when I saw the character, I was like, wow, that's like a weird Rachel from Glee. She's the one who's wearing the neck brace and she's got the really crazy hair. And then later on, I was talking to someone like, that actually is Lee Michelle. And I was like, wow, she's like parodying her own character from Glee. There was a couple places where I was laughing. One, and I liked the whole thing with the boyfriend and the gay roommate and the lead Chanel. And I loved the conversation when the boyfriend, who is such a narcissist, he's telling her, look, everybody wants to get with me, including my gay roommate. So you're just going to have to learn to deal with that.
Yeah. Basically, get in line. It's going to happen.
Yeah. I thought that was really funny. And then the whole surprise that Jamie Lee Curtis is coercing this guy to sleeping with her. And she's really, he's totally, smitten with her. And she's like, I'm just using you for the sex. I thought that was pretty funny. But even that whole scene in the meat locker with Lee Michelle, and she's talking in very specific detail about how to get rid of the body.
How to get rid of a body, yeah.
That was really... So if they take those elements and sort of dial those up a little bit more, I could totally see where this could be something I would want to watch every week for a while.
Yeah. And I do have to give credit there. Emma Roberts, the lead, playing the lead mean girl and the head of sorority, she can go toe-to-toe with Jamie Lee Curtis. I got to give her a lot of credit, acting-wise and over-the-top-wise. She could really make this work if she continues to be that insanely crazy and bring it together. I mean, some of the dialogue was really sharp. I had to rewind a few times because there were some good chuckle moments that I didn't want to miss. So there's some possibility here.
Yeah, and I actually hope that they sort of continue with the whole running gags about the coffee orders and stuff. I thought that was funny how they were all making fun of all the Chanels for being all the latte drinkers and stuff. I like that bit. Mm-hmm. The other show I wanted to talk about, which only I'm watching, is Gotham Season 2's return, Damned If You Do. And this season is called, The Rise of the Villains. And we're starting things out really dark. We've, put Jim Gordon is on the beat. His partner, Harvey, is retired and he's working in a bar. And we've got a bunch of the villains, including the future Joker, as well as Barbara Gordon, are locked up in Arkham. We also have a James Frayne character coming in at the end to start putting together, I'll call it the Rogues Gallery of people that are going to turn out to be one of the big crime factions this season. And then we also have Penguin as the current kingpin. And Jim Gordon gets into some hot water. He ends up losing his job. And the only way that he can sort of blackmail his way back onto the force is to do a job for Penguin, which is basically to get money that's owed to him from another criminal. And excuse me, the guy ends up trying not to pay, and there's a gunfire ensues, and Gordon kills the guy. So they're taking everybody really dark, including Jim Gordon, and they're also taking Bruce Wayne a few steps further along towards his Batman inclinations, as he and it looks like Alfred are going to, start getting more involved in sort of the crime side of things in this season as well. So it's off to a pretty good start. I'm liking it.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Glad to hear it. A lot of folks are loving the show, so it's nice to hear.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention it because I do think it's off to a pretty good start. And that is going to wrap it up for me, and I think for us for this week. I want to thank everyone for listening, and thank Kevin and Brent. We will see you again soon.
Yeah, catch you next time.
Take care, everybody.
If you'd like to contact Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, we offer a variety of feedback options, including email at feedback@tuningintoscifitv.com, voicemail at 206-202-4182, Skype voicemail at Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, or you can visit our blog and forums at tuningintoscifitv.com. And finally, you can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/tuningintosci-fi or at Facebook by following the link on our website. Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV was hosted by Kevin Batchelder, Wendy Hembrock, and Brent Barrett. The theme music for Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV is by Beatnik Turtle. Used with permission. Listen to Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV on Stitcher Radio on Demand. Download the free app today at Stitcher.com.
You've been listening to the Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV Last Call for episode 353, recorded September 26, 2015.
Go.
Go.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Let's get started with what Brent has to cover.
Nobody's going to comment on my bark?
I was trying to stay professional. I had to reach for the mute button real fast to get my laugh off the track.